One of the things that made me fall in love with the original NieR are its character dynamics. It's a title with extreme personalities. Kaine is a hot-headed, brutish, and foul-mouthed woman. Grimoire Vice is a floating book that spouts sarcasm and demeans others, while Emil is an incredibly sheepish and innocent boy. Despite these drastic differences in personalities, they become close friends, or sometimes even more than that. These extreme gaps in their demeanor allows the game to jump between being foul, humorous, crude, touching, and depressing, sometimes within a single scene. But when I sat down to play the recent remake, I realized what I thought would be a little ripple in this dynamic builds up to be much more. Even if you've never played the original NieR, you may be familiar with the fact that it had different protagonists depending on either the region you were in or the platform you owned it on. In Japan, the PlayStation 3 release features a young boy who is protecting his sister, which is how the story was originally conceived. In other regions, or on the Xbox 360 in Japan, instead it has an older man whom cares for his daughter, something that was decided by Western marketing to broaden the appeal of the title, to some extent against the will of the original team. Despite the age gap, both are named NieR, and what happens throughout the story is ultimately unaffected. So I thought that Square Enix exclusively using the original boy in the remaster wouldn't change much, but the deeper I got into the game with him, the more I realized I was wrong. The brother and father versions of NieR play quite different roles in how they interact with the group, which disrupts part of what I loved about the original, the combative yet close-knit relationships as well as the sharp shifts in tone. It's a bit of a strange claim to make because when looking at the dialogue, it remains relatively unchanged in content as well as structure. However, the type of character NieR is affects how those interactions come off. In a lot of ways, the father is a reflective character. How he talks with Kaine, Vice, and Emil is very much informed by their personalities. Within him, there's a bit of Emil's empathy, Vice's demeaning humor, Kaine's hot-headedness, as well as some of her foul mouth too.
Where have you been?
Getting our asses handed to us by a floating dictionary.
The common ground he shares between them makes him feel like the anchor that keeps them all together. The brother is more of his own thing. He doesn't really play along with Kaine and Vice's ego-driven personalities in the same way. He often sounds a bit more annoyed by their comments more than anything.
Such silence bodes ill. There's trouble on the way, I'm certain of it.
You know, a little optimism now and then wouldn't hurt, Vice.
While he has the capabilities of being empathetic towards others, it often feels like he's unequipped to really provide that same comfort. Both of these mean he doesn't engage with the cast in the same way, often seeming distant in addition to, for the first half of the game, being underneath his companions. Now that difference is probably very intentional. The boy's tale is framed around a coming-of-age plot, so his growth is more of a focus. There's almost mentor-like comments from Vice and Kaine that reflect this.
Well, the boy is beginning to sound like a man.
Boy, I'm not a kid, you know.
Hey, less talking, more walking.
Meanwhile, the dad is a defined character from the start, who simply gets more physically capable as he faces greater challenges. So in this video, I want to show you examples of different lines involving NieR to discuss why they matter. I'll save the spoilers for the end, and don't worry, I'll let you know when we get there. The first scene we'll look at is when meeting this largely irrelevant enemy book in Emil's manor. As the encounter begins, the father, unprompted, throws some light shade towards Vice, who also happens to be a floating book.
Oh, great. Why does every book I meet have a bad attitude?
Oh, aren't we clever? As if any mere tome could compare to the wonderment that is Grimoire Vice.
Here's the brother's read.
This book's kind of like you, Vice.
Oh, aren't we clever? As if any mere tome could compare to the wonderment that is Grimoire Vice.
The boy more or less is simply making an observation here. Despite the differences in NieR's dialogue, Weiss reacts to the comment in a very similar way between both versions, a trend you'll find throughout these clips. Because there's no real alteration here, the response to the brother comes off more as a general frustration with his ignorance, where the father's teasing plays more into creating cracks in Weiss's pompous personality. A similar scenario happens with Kaine after she disappears for a while in the Sand Dune Temple. She re-emerges during the boss fight, then the father starts the conversation with a playful jab.
I figured you'd come back.
Don't get all weepy, okay? It's not like I was searching for you.
So you were simply lost?
Fuck off, book.
Meanwhile, the brother says,
How did you find us?
Beats me. I just kicked a bunch of ass and wound up here.
And without even bothering to get dressed.
Fuck off, book.
What's interesting here is that Weiss and Kaine are really the show of the back half of this conversation in both versions. While the dialogue differs for them, the structure is the same. NieR initiates with a statement, Weiss insults Kaine, Kaine tells Weiss to fuck off. But the father is more of a part of the scene since he's also teasing Kaine, making it feel like him and Weiss are harassing her together. The young NieR just presents a very normal question, which I'm struggling to find much value in. I kind of feel like he may as well have said nothing at all, which actually does kind of happen at one point. When Emil's butler asks him for a favor, Weiss is completely in control of the response here.
I am quite pleased to see you here. Long have I dreamed of the day we might be able to do something about Master Emil's eyes.
I see.
Yes, well, I am afraid we, or at least this lad beside me, is neither hero nor physician, so if you'll excuse us.
Weiss is the one downplaying NieR's capabilities here, and for NieR, basically, it doesn't do anything. He just says, I see. Meanwhile, the father has more of like a self-demeaning joke aspect to this, as he states that he's more brawn than brain.
I think you want a doctor. I'm just a big guy who kills things.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. Well, off we go then.
These kind of differences don't matter that much in individual moments, though they do add up. They bolster the father as a character and contributes to chipping away at the ironclad egos of half his team, something that matters quite a bit towards the end as the stakes get higher. The brother doesn't seem like he's a part of the conversation. Again, I think some of that's by design as he steadily gets more capable as a young adult and he becomes more of a driving force in the group. Let's talk about two particular scenes where NieR's role matters much more. A bit of a warning for those of you who haven't finished up to Ending A. These are some major story points in that first arc, so if you're not done with that, go watch my video about how I like Valkyria Revolution instead or something. We've been neglecting Emil so far, so let me talk about one of the scenes that matters the most with him, when his human body is twisted into a horrendous skeletal being. It's my favorite part of the game as NieR does all he can to comfort Emil, only commenting on his body to dissuade that his appearance matters to them.
Welcome back, Emil. You've been through a lot.
But my body...
Yeah, I know.
I can't stand to be with you when I look like this.
What did I tell you? We're here for you, no matter what.
Then Emil makes this really dorky comment.
You look just like I thought you would. You look really cool.
Knock it off.
With the father, he gives a sigh along with a lighthearted response. This leads to the group getting right back into their dynamics, immediately joking about the
She's
situation.
waiting. I sure hope seeing me doesn't petrify her. You know, in fear.
I see this transformation has not stolen your terrible sense of humor.
With the brother, his response to Emil's goofy comment is just,
You look really cool.
Right.
The problem I have is that initially NieR does a really good job acting as if nothing has changed for Emil's sake. While it's largely one line, I think every word matters here. The father's response feels like a follow-through on that moment, where the brother comes off as not knowing what to say due to the gravity of the situation. Yes, the conversation still leads back to Weiss insulting Emil's sense of humor, but my perception of how NieR is affected by this event is changed. The brother comes off as a bit shaken, where the father seems like he's pressing on for Emil. The last moment I want to highlight is with Kaine, because this scene is the epitome of what makes this game's dialogue great. It's the scene where she is awakening after being petrified for 5 years. Emil is nervous about how Kaine will react to his new body, yet despite her not knowing what happened, she immediately recognizes Emil, then talks to him, no questions asked.
Emil, you were the one calling me, huh?
You still recognize me?
Yeah, sure. I knew you right away.
It's a really sweet scene that does a lot for Emil and Kaine's relationship. Then she turns to the father.
You look like shit.
That kind of heel turn is my favorite thing about how these characters interact with each other. The fact that they're willing to just drop this crude joke into this very touching moment, I think is amazing. And despite it, being pretty rude, it only brings them closer together because they're all in on this dynamic. There's no hard feelings about it. This is just how their friendship works, and everybody accepts that. Compare this to what she says to the brother.
Wow, you grew up.
Does this make more sense? Absolutely. But in a game that often goes out of its way to defy your expectations, having something that feels more normal makes it less interesting. I know I've been down on baby boy NieR. I get that he is inherently a different character. I still think it's really cool that they decided to localize this particular version that we never got. And honestly, I think the father works better because he was shoved into this role he didn't belong in the first place, which is why you end up with the scene where they had to figure out why people would be in awe of an old man after 5 years, and instead of solving that reasonably, they just have Kaine say,
You look like shit.
I love that. I hope that someone over there at Square Enix realizes the value of the old man NieR, so new fans can someday experience that character in full too. Hey, let's do the YouTube thing. If you have your own feelings, let me know in the comments. I'm very clearly pro-dad here, but as someone who really tried to like the brother, I 100% want to hear your thoughts on them. Also, I don't think this ruins the game or anything. It just takes away a little bit of what I loved about the original. Anyways, thanks for coming. OneControlPort.com is a website with a focus on games with a different take on a franchise or genre. If you enjoyed this video specifically, I'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribed, so hopefully I can keep doing stuff like this. If you're interested in some off-kilter action RPGs, check out my Valkyria Revolution video, where I talk about how it's one of my favorite entries in the Valkyria Chronicles franchise.